All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Ole Miss After Dark. Joined here once again, like I am every single Tuesday, by my good friend Brian Baldwin. Brian, how you doing today, bud?
Man, I am doing pretty well. I can't complain. How about yourself?
Man, not too bad. Interested to dive in here, see what the Miss 98 scoreboard show's got going on this week. From what I hear, y'all are going to the e-gaming capital of Mississippi for a high school football game this weekend.
That's right. We are headed down Highway 15 to Houston, Mississippi, to watch the Hilltoppers take on Saltillo, one of our
Mm-hmm.
schools up here in Lee County. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like you said, e-gaming coach extraordinaire Lee Bunch, a good pal of ours. He's going to kind of take care of the hospitality for us. Our good friend Reed Flowers coaches there. Baylor Dampier, he'll be there as well. A little tie that he has with Saltillo. He was a quarterback there, I'm pretty sure. His father, Charlie
Sounds right.
Dampier, was the coach there at Saltillo, and he was a quarterback, good quarterback. Haven't had too many good football teams at Saltillo, and Coach Dampier was a part of those. Both Dampiers, one as a player, one as a coach. So it'll be fun to go down there and catch that game this week. We're looking forward to it. You know,
Yeah.
it's always fun to go watch Houston. They're perennial power in our area for a long time, and it's this year's no different. You know, they're loaded. They reload, whether they be 3A or 4A, and they've got a good squad. They've got a lineman that's committed to Jackson State. But I've heard through the grapevine, he might play himself up to some offers, and you never know how a young
Yep.
man like that develops. So it's good to keep an eye on him. His name escapes me, but all you gotta do is just follow the scoreboard show Friday night. We'll be glad to talk about him. And they've got other guys.
Right.
They got loads of guys who end up playing in junior college, whether it be at Awamba, East Mississippi, or up at Northwest. They've always got good players that find their way to 4-year rosters. So it's fun for us to
Mm-hmm.
go check them out this week. And last week was fun,
Yeah.
man. We went to Hamilton. It was a good time. Boonville. They're a good football team. Don't let their record fool you. You know they're a power in 3A year in year out for a reason. Big
Mm-hmm.
linemen, good skill position players. It was a fun time homecoming for Hamilton.
Yeah, and they're talking about Houston and all the players they end up sending to other levels and all that. There's one that's a pretty good true freshman in Oxford right now, Will Eccles, right? A
Absolutely.
guy that me and you have heard about for years and years now. As you said, our good buddy Reed is down there in Houston, and he had been telling us for years that he thought that they had a sure enough Division I football player, and turns out not only do they have a Division I football player, just last week, I believe it was, he was rated the number 10 overall true freshman, according to Pro Football Focus. So our man Reed down there just developing the hell out of talent.
Well, for sure, and it's one of those things. The way that the recruiting landscape has changed. Back in the day, when I was in high school, or maybe a generation kind of a little before you, and even in your generation, a lot of guys in our area, they were good players. They went junior college, then they went
Uh-huh.
to a Division I school. The only ones
Brody
that really
Stubblefield.
yeah, the only ones that really like made the jump to a 4-year university were the guys who were freaks of nature. Your Chris
Uh-huh.
Jones, your people like that. You know what I mean? But what's
Uh-huh.
happened now with the advent of 7-on-7 and invite only, prospect camps, if you will, at colleges, a lot of these kids are being able to be seen on a bigger scale. A guy like Will Eccles, who knows if the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even 15 years ago, like I said, if he'd ended up at Ole Miss because of the way that the recruiting world was shaped. But he
Uh-huh.
qualified as a freshman, which is a big deal, and he's able to play right away. He's a true talent, and we cultivate a lot of talent in Mississippi, especially the
Yeah.
Northeast part. For a long time, we've been known for our basketball in the area. We've, from Ingomar up to Corinth and all the way down to Starkville, man, they just Xerox gold balls every year, basketballs, because they win state championships. But this area for a long time has been a football power. The Hills, as we call it, have always produced D1 talent.
Uh-huh.
Small schools like Bruce and Coon City in the 90s, Armiga Spearman, Bernard Sykes, like those guys were big
Yeah.
D1 talents. Everybody in this area has a player, and Houston has a few, and they always do. And you combine that with good coaching, a good parental fan base. They expect success in Houston, and they expect their teams to play a certain way. And this team, run by Coach Dampier, is no different.
Yeah, no doubt. They've done a good job just churning out talent, like you said, whether it be Chris Jones, Will Eccles, really good down in the trenches down there in Houston, Mississippi, and I'm sure it's not going to be any different this year.
Yeah.
Off to a good start, if I'm not mistaken, right? What's the
Oh,
record going into this Friday?
undefeated. They're undefeated.
Yeah.
They went over to North Side in the Delta against a really good Delta program. It's a school that's kind of consolidated a district over there in the Shelby
Hmm.
area and beat them pretty handedly. Then this week, like I said, they have Saltillo, and
Hmm.
they're good. I mean, they really are. They're the real deal. And Louisville's always awesome in 4A, and it'll be interesting to see how things shake out going forward. There's always, it seems like, a collision course between those two, and it's
Hmm.
Houston has really been dominant. But it's one of those things like you just never know. A bad snap here, crazy weather, a different type of game, make you change your philosophy a little bit. Anything can happen. And Houston has one of those squads that can be there in the end if things break the right way with matchups and health.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit last weekend. We always do the Fish House Friday segment and all of that. For the people that didn't listen to y'all show, first of all, shame on you. You need to tune in every single Friday night, starting at 9:30, and you're going to get all the details every single week. But you talked about this. It sounded like this extravagant seafood meal that you were going to eat last Friday night. They were putting on for you down there.
Yeah,
How did that end up going for you?
man, it was great. It was the weather changed things up a little bit, so getting
Hmm.
some seafood we were wanting to get, with the weather depression coming through was a little tricky, but we ended up having shrimp, ribs, fried ribs. We had
I heard
catfish.
about them fried ribs, man. I got to try that.
Fried ribs were good. We had fried catfish, French fries. It was awesome. It was a smorgasbord of canola oil and meat. It was great, and it was it
Yeah.
was it was worth the drive there, even if we didn't get to watch the football game. But our buddy Coach Dallas Flippo and the crew, they took care of us. Pulled right in. I said, "Where do I need to park?" He said, "Pull in the baseball field." So we pulled baseball parking. Man, he introduced me to everybody in town. It was really cool, and it's a treat to catch up with folks like that. We grew up with Dallas throughout junior college and college, and to see him, and then kind of running things while Coach Tackett's team is on the field, it's really neat.
Hmm.
But it was a good time, and it will be hard for anybody to beat that fish. It was the best fish fillets that I've had so far, but we haven't been to Centerville. I mentioned Centerville, so we'll see.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to make it to Manatee in a few weeks. So.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Centerville is good. That is one of the fish houses I have been to. Now it has been probably Lord, it's got to be at least 15 years ago now since I've
Too
been
long.
there.
Yeah.
Been a long, long time. So I'm gonna have to make my way back down there as well. What are you scoping out down there in the area of the Tyler Wrights in the world and all? Have you been talking to him about where to go? Maybe Lee Reed is.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a lot of options to get some feedback on where you need to go this Friday. So what's the verdict?
So real talk. For as cool as
Uh-huh.
Houston is as a city, and as many athletes as they've had, and as much of my friends that come from there, ain't got much to eat. It's pretty traditional.
Oh
It's
man.
it's a local Mexican restaurant. It's some kind of bar and grill on their little square. There's a place out of
Uh-huh.
town called Pops, I think, that I was kind of recommended. But instead of doing all that, we're gonna go a little bit further up North Highway 15 on the way to the game, and we're gonna stop at the world famous Seafood Junction in
Of
Algoma,
course.
Mississippi. So
Yeah.
that's what we
I
got
knew you
going.
said you were going north. I was thinking is like, well, they're going to stop in Algoma before they shoot down 15s. What's happening there? And that's
Yeah,
not a bad move, quite frankly.
because my thing is it's quick because it's a buffet. If I want to walk in there
Yeah.
and say, "There's my table," right? Okay, cool. I'm gonna go ahead and get the buffet. I can start eating. So work
Hmm.
schedule followed by kickoff will make that good, and also it's just real dang good.
It is really good.
It's the junction. You know what I mean? It's the
Yeah.
one that everybody knows about right there by the railroad tracks in Algoma. It's going to be
Yeah.
great. I'm pumped about it.
Well, kind of what are some other high school games y'all are looking at? Maybe some of the bigger matchups going on Friday night.
Yeah, man, we got some pretty good games going on this weekend. While I'm kind of scoping those out, if you haven't ever been to Seafood Junction, make sure you go there and save room for the soft serve ice cream and chocolate cobbler.
Yeah.
What's up? So this weekend, there's some rivalries going on. A game that's been played for a while in our area, Aberdeen at Amory. They call it the A game. It's a really funny rivalry. Just when you think a team is the dominant force here, the other squad will win. This year, Amory's 2-1, Aberdeen's 1-2. It's anybody's game. It's not a traditional Amory power, and Aberdeen's just athletic enough to keep it close. So we'll see what happens there. Baldwin at East Webster, big time matchup in North Mississippi. Down at East Webster, Baldwin 3-0, one of the classes of the 1A groupings. East Webster 3-0 as well. They've always been a power in our area. Charleston, really good, 2-1 squad. Keep an eye on them. They head to West Tallahatchie. Cleveland Central, loaded with athletes. They've got some guys who are, fringe D1, kind of D2 level players, so keep an eye on them. A big rivalry in our area as well. Corinth is at Kossuth. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kossuth's 0-3, Corinth's 2-1. What's the big deal here? Man, these folks don't like each other. For a long time, they've been foes that have battled really, really intensely, and this week will be the same. Corinth's got a few more athletes, but it's at Kossuth, so we'll see what happens there. Germantown got some really good football players. They head to West Lauderdale. Grenada is one of the class teams as well. I think they're 6A now, but they're 2-1. They head to Clinton, which is also 2-1, and I think Clinton upset Brandon last week, and Brandon was the number one team in the state. So that'll be a really big game right there as well. Hamilton, our friends who lost one last week to Boonville, they head to Nanawaya. One to keep an eye on in our area, and it's not because of the teams playing. I know what you're about to think. Brian's talking about South Pontotoc. Okay, I get it. But there's a reason I'm talking about it. So this week, South Pontotoc hosts Holly Springs, and I know what you're saying. Why is Brian mentioning this? Because Holly Springs probably has the most electric player in our area in Trey Kinkle. He's amazing. Trey Kinkle is one of those kind of guys. If he's got 300 yards, it might have taken him 10 carries. He will be the best athlete just about on any field he plays on all year long. That will be no exception in Springville, Mississippi. You know what I mean? And I'm partial to the folks of Cougar Nation, but get your popcorn ready, because this young man can absolutely get after it. Multiple offers. He's got a top 6 that includes Florida State and some other squads. They're struggling right now. I wonder where the Rebels are on his radar, but I know just being right up the road at Holly Springs, they know what's up. And if they don't, they should. But Trey Kinkle is an awesome player. Keep an eye on him.
Well, I tell you, him being right there in Holly Springs sounds like the more superior program to Florida State. The Memphis Tigers may need to give him a holler and see what's happening. Right, big win for the Tigers this weekend.
Big win for the Tigers. I'm gonna get to that in a little bit, but man, it's a tough time in the Baldwin household. I haven't checked on my brother John. He's a big Florida State fan.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Hey man, I'm gonna leave it be. I love the guy. Yeah. My birthday's coming up. I want a card. I don't want, snake in the mouth or anything. But I'll check on him soon enough. I know he's going to be all right. I do know that. Lake Carmeret hosts Horn Lake. That's a cool rivalry in the area because that's they formed Lake Carmeret as part of the Horn Lake district down there in the Walls area. Mantachie's 3-0. They go to Smithville. Moorville 3-0 is going to Tishomingo County 3-0 as well. Let me repeat that one time. 3-0 Moorville is going to 3-0 Tishomingo County. I don't know if there's too many times since the Reagan administration that I could put that phrase together and complete a sentence, but it's for real. Both teams are 3-0, and that's a big game coming up Friday night. New Albany, back after a bye week, hosts Itawamba and Bryson Walters. So it'll be interesting to see how he is able to go against our guy, Cody Stubblefield. And Colin Stubblefield led offense with some real playmakers, a Division I level quarterback, and a Division I lineman. So it'll be interesting to see several D1 level athletes there. That'll be an interesting game to keep an eye on this week. I'm looking forward to that one. Let's see here. Anything? Oh, Oxford at Tupelo. Coach Ty Harden's squad at Tupelo is really good. They host Oxford. I expect this game to be close for a little while because Chris Cutcliffe, the coach at Oxford, is probably the best coach in the entire state. He's amazing. Nobody game plans and preps like him, and he will be ready for Tupelo. It's just a matter of player. It is what it is. Tupelo's loaded. Pontotoc hosts North Pontotoc. interesting game there. We'll see how that one
On
plays out.
Vikings.
Pontotoc has some more athletes, but that's another rivalry game. North has a good
Man,
quarterback. The Twins that play
and
quarterback, running back.
that's gonna absolutely kill our man Zach Mackins too, man. Coach Mackins, I know he's gonna be torn this Friday night, but
North
maybe
Pontotoc grad,
pull
coaching
off
for
the call
Pontotoc.
sheet a little bit. Yeah, pull
I
off
get it.
the call sheet a little bit and maybe throw one to your alma mater.
No, he ain't gonna throw one. He wants to win that, dude. I
No, he
tell you
ain't
what.
gonna do that. He ain't
Let's
gonna do all that.
he ain't gonna do all that. And then let's see. It's always interesting to see some of the games from the other side of the state. So Senatobia rebounding really well, 2-1. They host St. Pius the 10th out of Missouri. That's a pretty good squad coming to Tobytown. As we mentioned, Houston is hosting Saltillo in our Miss 98 scoreboard show game of the week. South Panola is at Clarksdale. Both of these squads are good, and I'm going to say this: South Panola is almost back. After the few years of reorganization with numbers, they're 6A. They're not at the height of students in 7A, so they're able to play more to their student base and size. And as a 6A squad, they're something else. They're athletic. They can play. It took a few years for them to kind of get to where they were, but they're headed that way. They're really good. They beat Oxford recently, which was a good win for them. Starkville at Louisville, game of the week in the entire state. Both 3-0. Another Golden Triangle matchup with players that we're going to see playing on Saturdays over the next 4 years. It is what it is. Both squads are awesome. Coach Chris Jones at Starkville, year in and year out, they're a state championship contender. This year is no different. And let's see here. Undefeated Walnut is at 2-0 Belmont, something that doesn't happen too often. West Point got on the board last week with a big win. They're now 1-2. They're at Neshoba Central. And Winona, really good squad in our area, 2-1. They have the linebacker, I think his name may be Lockhart, D1 level player there at Choctaw County. So that's the good, public school slate. In the MAIS, like I said, I touch on a few of these. Prep, really good, 4-0 after beating, I think, JA last week. They're at Park Lane, who's also 4-0. Kirk Academy, 4-0. Goes to Marshall Academy, who's 3-2. Coach Durham's squad's pretty good, and Andy will be keeping an eye on that one from Jamaica. I don't know if you knew this, but Andy is in Jamaica.
Yeah. We talked about that a little bit last Friday when we called in.
Yeah. I'm sure he's having a really good time there. And I was trying to see Hartfield. Hartfield is hosting Starkville Academy, and the reason I bring up Hartfield is for this reason. I think, rumor has it, I heard the other day through the grapevine that they might have the best strong safety in the country in his class. Maybe 2027 sophomore. JA's got a really good one as well. But so keep an eye on Hartfield. They're an amazing program down there in Jackson. One of the newer schools that took over another school that became defunct. So that's a good one to keep an eye on as well, just because, like I said, they're loaded with folks. And that's really about it for all the games to keep an eye on. JA, like I said, they're hosting Lamar School. Lamar's pretty good, but JA's 4-1, going to rebound after the game against Prep.
Good deal. Yeah. I'm not sure that you can tune in to any other Ole Miss show on the planet and get that kind of high school football rundown, except for right here on Ole Miss After Dark. My man Brian does a great job with that. Does a great job with the scoreboard show every Friday night as well. I'm telling you, it is so much fun listening to you and Andy and Balfour, which I guess will just be you and Balfour this weekend since Andy's off and running in Jamaica. Dad
be way more weather focused this week. Weather and stats.
That's right. Yeah. Weather and stats. Yeah. That's what we're getting this weekend. But that's a good rundown there. Just kind of as we close up here, what are your thoughts, whether it be something from the high school ranks that you've seen over the last week, or college football, Ole Miss, Memphis, FSU? I mean, there was a lot of action since me and you have talked last Tuesday.
Yeah, to kind of wrap up a little high school football talk, there's a lot of good players in the area, and our area needs to support the high school football programs that their kids go to. If your kid doesn't play football, cool. If they're in the band, go to the game anyway. You know what I mean? If your kid doesn't play football but their friends play, go. Make sure your son or daughter goes to the game to watch. It's a big deal, and it's something that you'll remember for a long time. We got a lot of good teams in our area, so it's been a real treat so far to keep up with them. We appreciate the hospitality shown to us at every stop. Everybody opens their gate, come right down to the field. They open their doors to us, and all I do is walk up with a lanyard, and I could be lying to them. I'm with the scoreboard show. They never ask You know what I mean? But they always
Yeah.
let us in. So it's a real trusting vibe. And thanks to everybody
But
for listening.
that's
As
what
for the
Southern hospitality that everybody ever always talks about in Mississippi, though, right? We're just going to trust you, telling us the truth. Come on in, we'll show you a good time.
we're 50th in everything. We're the fattest and we're the dumbest, guilty as charged here, but we're the nicest. We're first in that. There is no doubt. I travel this
100%.
entire country. I'm going to a new state this week. I'm headed to Utah. Never been there. Headed there on Thursday
Hmm.
morning to Salt Lake City, and those Mormons will not be as nice as our Baptists. I guarantee it.
No
You know,
chance. No
no, they
chance.
will not be. But the Rebels looked really, really, in my opinion, really good for a sloppy team. To win 40-6. It's one of those things like we can moan and groan about 40-6, man. There are years that would have been a one-score game. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's
We
to
would have been battling till the end.
and to see our guys, we're never tested,
No.
really. But it just goes to that attention to detail, kind of like we talked about last week. Fine tuning of things. That will cost you when a team is equal or close to equal.
Hmm.
Look at, like you said, Memphis, Florida State. Man, Florida State, sloppy. They can't line up. They can't. Their receivers can't run around. Quarterback can't do anything. And it got them beat by a team that is not as talented as Florida State, but they're
Hmm.
good at the quarterback position and they had a good game plan. And I'm speaking to something else. Ryan Silverfield, the coach at Memphis, has been with Mike Norvell at every stop since Arizona State.
Hmm.
I think Todd Graham, is it Graham? Todd Graham?
Sounds right. Yeah. Yeah.
Todd Graham or
Todd
Grantham? I
Graham.
think Todd Graham, yeah. He was the coach at Arizona State, and Norvell was the OC, and they hired Silverfield as an analyst on the word of Mike Norvell, which is a lot of trust from a head coach to an offensive coordinator to hire a guy without even really knowing him. And then Silverfield made it to Memphis, and he was the one who was there the whole time, never left. When Dan Lanning and folks like that were leaving to take better jobs, and Dillingham, who's now at Arizona State, and all those guys were leaving, Silverfield was there. So there's a real bond between he and Mike Norvell. And I really believe when that 2-minute drill was going on, he knew what was coming. They brought the house. They knew what was going to work, A, against the scheme, and B, against the personnel. They knew DJ you could not make the throws, could not make the reads. So they were prepared for that. And I think the more prepared team won. That's what I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. It was very apparent that Memphis was much better coached. They have a fourth of the resources at best. Talent wise, it shouldn't have even have been close, because FSU has all of this money. They should have been able to get out and get all of this talent to be a more superior team than Memphis. But it speaks to what Silverfield and that staff has done. They were really good last year, able to really build on it. And, we kind of talked privately a little bit before the year of, hey, that Memphis Florida State game, like Memphis has a chance to get them, right? That was a
Yeah,
big game on the schedule for Memphis. And that was before we ever saw Florida State versus Georgia Tech and Florida State, against Boston College. And then after those happened, we were thinking, okay, well, Memphis is just going to go down there and beat them now.
right.
And that's exactly what happened. Played a really good game. To your point about Ole Miss, sloppy game, penalties. The turnover deep into the red zone there, the dumb
Yep.
penalty by Jackson there at the goal line, which should have been targeting. I don't care what anybody says. In my opinion, it should have been targeting, but he took his helmet off, 15 yards, kicked a field goal, because Lane Kiffin was going to go for it on 4th and inches. It didn't matter the
Absolutely.
score right there.
Yeah, it was JJ
get in the end
McGee's
zone.
time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. He's about to go over the top.
I am partial to a big boy in the backfield.
That's
I
right.
used to always shake my head and wonder why we didn't give Nick Parker the ball back in the day. Short goal lines. Liggins, man, I used to get so excited when Liggins was back there. Whenever we put Kim Dichie back there, it was always fun. And now,
except against Memphis, it wasn't real fun when we put Kim Dichie back there against Memphis.
It was that, but that was an unnecessary time. It's weird how, like, when we shouldn't do it, things like that happen.
Exactly.
And, it's like the one time we should have done it was maybe A&M with Bo Wallace when we put him in shotgun and tried to QB sneak it, draw it up the middle.
Yeah.
That was Bo Wallace. Maybe we should have done that with somebody else, anyway. Thank God that guy's coaching over now. But long story short, less long. But I'm excited about, the landscape of football in general. NFL Sunday's fun. I hate what happened to Tua. Like things like that are unfortunate. But, he needs to got to protect himself.
He needs to take care of himself.
Got to take care of himself better. I'm not going to blame a competitor for trying to make a play, but you got to know better. You got to know better. It was wild to see the Vikings beat the Niners. It's one of those weird years. I think that when we get to the playoffs, you could see a team get hot like the Jets. You know what I mean? Like you just never know what's going to happen late in the year based on health and who emerges. So the Saints are good. Right now it's fun to watch them. So just football in general is fun. I'm glad to have it back from high school to junior college. Itawamba's got a good squad. It's fun to, kind of keep up with what they got going on. Shout out to my guy, Adam Gore. And then, the Rebels are awesome. Memphis is good. The SEC is tough. They do. But, man, look, man, I know this is an Ole Miss podcast, and I'm not going to give them any props. But I'll just say this. Jeff Levy is a friend. And he's a heck of a dude, and I hope he's able to get it turned around for his sake. I'm not saying for the sake of the university or whatever, but I'm an Ole Miss fan, but I am saying for the sake of Jeff Levy and the sanity of a few of my friends, I hope that they get it turned around enough that when we beat them at the end of the year, it's not just totally earth-shattering. But that's all. I know. But.
I do like Jeff Levy as well. Liked him when he was here. Liked the hire when they made it. My hope for Jeff Levy is he finds some way out of that hellhole and goes somewhere else and has success anywhere but there. So
I've had good times in Starkville, and like I said, I host a radio show that goes out to the masses, and I want everybody to realize that I wish the best for what's going on in Starkville.
I hear you, man.
Other than when the one game a year.
That's right.
We'll leave it that way.
That's right. All right, bud. Well, you got anything else for me before we get out of here?
Yeah. I got a little something for you. I always kind of like to try to give you a trivia question, and I got to kind of put it kind of dated because you're so up to date and so current that anything pre-2000 and let's say 18, I know that might be able to confuse you a little bit because we had so much fun and so much time and so many beers between the end of let's just say going back to Cut to Orgeron, to all these folks.
See, the thing is, the Ole Miss stuff is what locks in. Everything else leaves me. This locks in.
All right, I got you. All right, so here we go. You ready? What 5-star recruit out of Neville High School in Monroe, Louisiana, signed to play quarterback with the Rebels, but was later moved to H-back and tight end?
Robert Lane.
The Lane train. That's what's up.
That's right. He was the original Tim Tebow. Orgeron and them just had no idea what they had or how to use him.
He was like 3 to 4 years ahead of his time. He was
an incredible athlete.
He was the end of Spurlock era because I remember they kind of had them, and maybe Ethan Flatt, was he the other one there?
God, yes.
I don't understand those, but we would have loved to have seen a package where we have those two amazing NFL level athletes doing some stuff instead of both playing out.
Yeah. One of the maddest I'd ever been post game was we had played Alabama. It was after the Eli years, after Michael Spurlock, and Ethan Flatt was our quarterback. He was a sophomore that year, and we played Alabama here.
Doing the best he could.
He might have been doing best he could. Brian wasn't good enough now because Alabama come in here and put a whooping on us, and we was walking back to the tap pad to the tailgate over there. Yeah. And I was going to have me one of them beers when I got there to drown that game away. And an Alabama fan come up to me and goes, "Man, you ain't got nothing to hang your head out about, son." He said, "That Ethan Flatt's going to be better than Eli Manning by the time he lives here."
Woo,
and man,
boy.
Dad had to pull me away. I was so mad. I don't think I've ever cussed somebody that bad in my entire life. And he genuinely thought it. Like he was trying to be nice. Wrong time.
And in my movie narrator voice, Ethan Flatt was in fact not as good as Eli Manning.
He was not as good as Eli Manning. That was a fact. Tried hard, good kid, I'm sure, but not as good as Eli Manning. So appreciate all he did for the university, though.
Yeah, shout out to him. I'm sure he's a fine real estate agent.
I'm sure he's a fine man. Sure he's a fine man.
He was good.
Just not a great college quarterback. So, all
well,
right,
hey,
buddy.
shout out to you for knowing the trivia question. You're 3 for 3. Or is it
dude,
4 for 4?
I'm telling you,
4 for 4, maybe.
Whatever it is, you keep firing them at me. I'm telling you, everything else leaves. Ole Miss football sticks with me. I'm going to get every one of them. So you just keep churning them out week after week.
1 week I'm going to give you a non-football question.
Okay, and as long as it's not from like the 40s, I think I'll be able to. I'll be able to handle it.
These will all be from when you and I have been alive. I ain't going to do that to you.
All right, then I'm going undefeated. Then I guarantee you. So, all right, Bo. Listen, I appreciate you joining me again. Y'all make sure to tune in to the Miss 98 Scoreboard Show. 97.5, isn't that right, Brian? Every Friday night, 9:30 to 11.
Yeah, 97.5 on your radio dial. And we're also at miss98.net online, where you can listen live on Friday nights from 9:30 to 11:30. And then you can also find us on that really awesome app from your app store. There's the Miss 98 app. It's great. You can join us any 3 ways. And we love for you to chime in, DM us, message us, hear our coaches' calls, hear the calls from experts like yourself and, Ole Miss experts like Jared Redding, people like that who like to talk to us. Coach Ty Harden, anybody and everybody.
Yep. Very good, man. Well, listen, dude, look forward to talking to you Friday night on the Scoreboard Show. Appreciate you joining me once again this week, and we'll do this all over again on Tuesday.
Awesome, man. Look forward to talking to you. Hotty toddy, brother.
Hotty toddy, bud.